The next thing we want to do is post the cash payments journal to the general ledger. So we have our cash payments journal. We've completed it. It looks very neat and everything. Again, we want to make sure that we can take everything from here and post it to the general ledger. We should be able to do that without going back to all of our transactions, because if we have posted these correctly, you will know exactly what your debits and credits are. Again, if we take a look at the format of what we've done here, when we are creating a cash payments journal, we are indicating everything that is leaving the business, the money that is leaving the business. So therefore, your bank here would be your credit side, because our bank decreases on the credit side. Your expenses increase on the debit side, so our debits would actually be our purchases, our debit would be our wages, our debits would be whatever it is that we're doing over here, the rent, the electricity, other expenses, whatever. So we're still not going anywhere, we're just shifting the format slightly. As with the CRJ, all of these, can be done with general journal. So if we take item number 1 or transaction number 1, could we create a general journal out of there? Yes, we can. Think about it. What would you debit? What would you credit? Your debit would be your purchases, 1,500, and our credit would be bank, 1,500. And if we wanted to put a narration, if we wanted to put this as a proper general journal in an exam, we would say purchased stock from pet supplies. So you can see I've got all the information that I need right here in this particular area. I've got everything that I need. I am continually creating information that works for me. And this again is just an illustration of the fact that all of these journals revolve around the same idea, which is for every debit there's a credit, the basic accounting equation. So that's fun. Let's go actually post this to the general ledger. As with the CRJ, let's start with the bank amount. So our bank amount, we paid out a total of 16,100 from the bank. So the very first column, or the very first general ledger item we're going to open up is our bank account. What have I said before? Always number your general ledger account first, and bank is an asset, which means it's a B. It gets B1, and I go back and I indicate that I'm posting it to account B1. That is 16,100. This will be credited because my bank decreases on the credit side, and these are all my payments. My folio, it's coming from the CPJ. My reference is my cash payments journal, and this again is going to be on the last day of the month. It's a summary of all of the transactions. Purchases themselves, 5150, so I need a purchases account. What do we do first? We number the account. This is an income item, so it's an N, that gets an N1. Go back and put my number in there, and that is 5150. Purchases are expenses, which means it credits or it increases on the debit side. It is from my CPJ. It's all my bank or my payments. And again, I can use the last day of the month. My wages, I need an account for that. Wages are also expenses, so they get an N. I've used N1, so this will be N2. So my wages are N2, and that is 2480. Wages increase on the debit side because they are expenses. It's from the bank. My CPJ 30th of June. You can see this does take a little bit of time. It takes some practice, and there's a lot of back and forth. And in an exam, often you know what you're doing, but speed can be a little bit of a problem for you. So you want to make sure you get practice at this. We cannot post this column in total because it's made up of different things, so we go and post them individually. The first one we need to do is our rent expense, which means we need an account for rent. So let's open up an account for rent. Rent is an expense, so it's an N. We've used 2, so we move to 3. So immediately my rent Over here, my folio is N3, and that was for 7,800. It is an expense which increases on the debit side, my CPJ, and that is my bank on the 30th of June. Last one, electricity, also an expense. I need an account for that as I don't have one. Electricity. I've used N3, therefore this one would be N4 as it's also an expense. N4, and that was for 670 Rand, which would be on the debit side because it's an expense. I'm increasing the expense. It's from my CPJ and 30th of June. And so we're done. So all of our amounts are posted. Everything has been posted, and you can check yourself by making sure that you've got all your little reference numbers where they belong. Are we still in balance? Do our debits and our credits agree? Is our basic accounting equation still in balance? If you add up all your debits and all your credits, they should be the same. Well, my credits come to 16,100. That is the only credit that I've got. And if you add all of these up, they're going to come to 16,100 as well, and that means I can go home smiling. My debits and my credits are the same. Your cash receipts journal and your cash payments journal are quite basic. The concepts are quite simple, but there's a lot of detail. Don't underestimate how long it's going to take you to get comfortable just with drawing up all these columns. In an exam, they may present you with paper that doesn't really fit what you want to do, and then you want to, draw something over double pages, or you want to figure out how big the columns are. That wastes time. Get used to figuring out how to draw these out while you're at home, when you're doing your assignments, when you're doing your homework. I've given you nice pieces of blank formats, and I've given you all the little totals and all the little forms, but you're not necessarily going to get that in an exam. So you want to make sure you can do this yourself. The posting is very, very important. I've separated the CRJ and the CPJ for illustration purposes. You need to make sure that you can do questions that are where the CRJ and the CPJ, the transactions are together. So go back to the study guide and do the combined example on the CRJ and the CPJ from here.